What's up, Boston Bruins? Boston Bruins!
What is going on, you guys? It is your boy, Jesse Almeida here on YouTube and on Beantown Takes. And we got some bad news again for the Boston Bruins. When you just thought it couldn't get much worse, it's getting worse. And what a time for them to be bringing up all of this news as well. Right when the Celtics are on this run, last Friday, they dropped that Marchand was going to be out for six months or whatever because of a double hip surgery that he had to have. And that was Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Final when the Celtics could have clinched the NBA Finals there. They dropped that news that day. And now, the day after the Celtics win Game 1 of the NBA Finals, they drop this on us. Mike Riley, Matt Grzelcyk, Charlie McAvoy, all out for months following surgeries. Mike Riley had a right ankle surgery. He's going to be out for 3 months. That will take him to September. Matt Grzelcyk had a right shoulder surgery done. He's going to be out for 5 months. That will take him to November. And then the biggest one here, Charlie McAvoy had a left shoulder surgery done. He's going to be out for 6 months. That will take him to December as well. Not good. Not good for the Boston Bruins. It just keeps getting worse and worse, and I don't like really the time frame of them announcing this, but it is what it is. The Bruins right now, again, like I said in my podcast, their future is unknown. And it's not looking good for the Boston Bruins. We don't know what Patrice Bergeron is going to do yet. We have no idea what the Bruins are going to do yet in terms of getting rid of money to help get talent on this team. Because let's be clear, they are not as talented as they used to be. So they need to get younger as well. They need to get better talent. And Matt Grzelcyk or Mike Riley, they're both similar in terms of their game. They're 6 foot tall. They're like kind of an offensive-minded defenseman. They're not as physical because of how small they are. So, I mean, you really only need one of those guys. So you could get rid of the other guy and save yourself pretty much $4 million there and use that to get somebody. But now, because of their injury, it's going to be a lot harder to get rid of them. So, not a good start to the offseason for the Bruins. We're going to react to Felger and Maz and their instant reaction on the news coming out. And then we're going to react to what the Boston Bruins should do in the offseason. There's a video out there that just released not too long ago. And I thought it'd be a great video to react to because we haven't done a reaction for the Bruins yet. So we're going to be doing that today in this video. Leave a thumbs up if you guys enjoy. Subscribe right now if you guys are new. You guys know what to do. If you guys want to check out my website, beantowntakes.com, the link is in the description down below. And also my Venmo is in the description as well if you guys want to donate and help me out to go to games in the future. Anything else, appreciate all the love and support. And let's hop straight into it. The Bruins probably having the worst. Oh man, it's actually close. I'm not going to lie. It's close between them, the Patriots, and the Red Sox right now. Even though the Red Sox did win last night in Oakland. So, let's hop straight into it.
Can I update you both on something, considering it's an agenda-free Friday?
Oh, yeah, sure.
For the second consecutive Friday, we have a Bruins news dump. You know, last week, we got the Brad Marchand news with the double hip surgery.
Here, do you want to hit a button? Hit a button.
Yeah, hit
Kevin.
a button for this.
He goes, uh-oh.
This is Breaking
Yeah,
Sports News.
he's right.
Powered by Valvoline Instant Oil Change on 98.5, the Sports Hub.
The Boston Bruins issuing the following injury updates, or surgery updates, rather, on defensemen Matt Grzelcyk, Mike Riley, and Charlie McAvoy.
Oh, boy.
Mike Riley underwent a right ankle tendon repair and removal of bone fragments today, so his recovery time is expected at 3 months. That's September. Matt Grzelcyk
might not
underwent a
be a
right
big
shoulder
deal.
open stabilization procedure today. The expected recovery
But still,
time for
teams
Grzelcyk
will
is
be
approximately
reluctant to
5
get him
months.
because-
That's November.
God.
For Charlie
They don't know how he's
McAvoy,
gonna
he
look.
underwent a left shoulder arthroscopic stabilization procedure at Mass General. The expected recovery time is approximately 6 months. That would be December for Charlie McAvoy.
Holy crap.
Oh, boy.
So Marchand's now out till Thanksgiving. McAvoy's now out till December. Riley
your
and
best
Grizzlick I
players
care
right
less
there.
about, except you probably can't move them if they're coming off of surgery. You probably
Right.
can't trade them and get rid of the money. So, yeah, there's some issues there. Not good.
Arthroscopic stabilization procedure?
Correct, yes.
Well, that means his shoulders popping in and out. They had to go in there and tighten that sucker up.
6 months?
Oof.
And if it's 6 months, why didn't they do this 3 weeks ago?
Good question.
Huh.
Well, they know it's all
That's
coming
a
apart
good
at the
point.
seams. Bergeron's
That's
done.
a
They're
very
going to
good
suck.
point.
Oh, tankathon.
Well, I still don't see how they tank. If Pasternak's out there and Lindholm's out there and
Hall.
Swayman's your goalie and Hall's there, they're still not tanking.
I
Well,
mean,
and Krejci could be coming back too. This is
Who
the other
else-
thing
who
that's
else do they
buzzing
have,
with Bruins
though,
news
besides
today.
those
He
three?
tweeted that he's on a plane headed for the United States, pounding a beer.
Carlo?
And he wrote in his language basically.
A Pilsner or Kel? Is that what he
I
said?
don't know if
it
Krejci's
is.
coming
It is.
back.
It actually
I
is a
don't-
Pilsner. It's very funny.
I'll
it's
believe
a-
it when I
It's
see
a Czech
it.
beer, right?
In terms of his future, plenty of time and lots of possibilities. Ooh.
They're not tanking. I mean, they
That
might
could
suck,
mean anything
but they're
now.
not trying to tank or lose games.
Yeah,
It's just not
I
in their
agree with
DNA.
that.
Well, get ready to watch the Providence Bruins the first couple of months of the season.
I'm not just
though.
going to be pretty.
That's true.
They're not tanking.
Oh, if Krejci's drinking on the flight, he's definitely coming back.
Oh, yeah, preseason form. He's getting ready. Brian in Fall River. Go, Brian.
Hey, what's happening, guys? All right, I know it's late. Let me try to word this right. Do you guys think that there's anybody over in the offices there at the Red Sox and the Patriots hoping that the Celtics will win a championship, just in hopes that it might
Excuse me,
kind of
guys.
overshadow
Jesus.
how bad those two freaking organizations are being ran into the ground right now?
Why are you leaving out the worst?
I was just going to say this.
The
There's
one team
three
that is
teams,
clearly,
moron.
blatantly trying to
Three
stuff
teams
their
are in the
bad
dark
news
right now.
underneath the Celtics championship radar is the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, two straight weeks now.
Who on 2 straight Fridays at 5:30 have released these injury updates where Marchand and McAvoy, only their 2 best players, are going to be out for 6 months and miss the first 2 months of the season. Talk about the most blatant, weaselly, news dumps you will ever hear. We just wait. No, they're waiting. Bruce Cassidy is going to be fired. They're waiting for after the Celtics win Game 6 or Game 7 to clinch the title. That's when Bruce will get it. Oh, they're waiting. Talk about shameless.
I would like to commend them for their weaselry.
It is
Like, that is some first-class weaselry.
next level.
Yeah, it is. No, that's as weaselly as it gets.
What? Weasels.
Oh, yeah, that is like ferret kind of
Oh,
stuff.
my God.
Damn. Wow, they were all over them there. I mean, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. It's not good. Not good for sure. Now we're going to react to what's next for the Boston Bruins 2022 offseason plan. From Top Shelf Hockey. Go subscribe to him. He's got 24.6 thousand subscribers. Huh. Okay. Go subscribe to him for this video. Finally, we have something Bruins that is worthy of reacting to. So let's hop straight into it. I want to see what this guy has to say for the Bruins as well.
Today we continue our NHL offseason plan series. We're now on to the Boston Bruins, the 10th ranked team from the NHL's regular
plan is just as
season.
good
This
as
could be a
mine.
very interesting offseason for Boston. Will Patrice
Oh my God,
Bergeron
why the hell am I
return?
yawning
How
so
many other
much?
changes will we see? We'll discuss the possibilities coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're on to team number 10 in their NHL's regular season of Boston Bruins. Now, unfortunately, we are skipping over the 11th ranked team from the regular season, the Edmonton Oilers, because they're still taking part in the NHL playoffs. Obviously, as I mentioned before, as we come up the list here, if teams are still playing, we're going to move over to the team above them to carry on, because obviously it's harder to predict what they're going to do when we don't know how their season ended. So if you're new to this series, essentially, we're going to recap the 21-22 season, take a look at some results. We're going to take a look at their cap space, expiring contracts, and what they have to work with here or replace this offseason. And then the biggest part is the top burning questions or top priorities facing this franchise as they hit the
I like
offseason.
that.
So let's
I like
first
how he's gonna
recap
just dissect
21-22 season here for the 10th ranked Boston Bruins. Now, they had a pretty solid year, a 107 point season with a record of 51-26-5. Obviously, the Boston Bruins only qualified, though, as a wild card team. The playoff picture was pretty tight in the East. The top-ranked teams were really all high into the 100-plus point category, whereas many of the teams, at least, that were out
but,
were
don't
really
worry. I know
out by a lot. There's like a 20-point gap, which is not something you typically see around this league here. But looking at some of their team results, they scored 253 goals for 15th best, so certainly respectable. Goals against, pretty respectable as well, pretty high. 4th best for 218. They had a very league average but respectable power play, 21.2% success rate for 15th best. And their penalty kill was pretty solid, 81.3% for 9th best overall. So like I said, we saw some pretty solid play out of the Boston Bruins this year. Even though they had 107 points in years past, that would have got them into the top 3 of their division for sure.
That's crazy now that I'm thinking about it. They had... Is it me that's Is it me underrating them, or... I don't know. I feel like it's because maybe I went to 5-6 games this season, whatever number it was, and it just didn't look the same to me. I don't know. They didn't look like themselves for sure this year.
But this year was a little bit of a different situation. Now let's explore their salary cap space that they have for this offseason and determine what they're going to have to work with for the expiring contracts that we'll look at next year. Obviously, the Bruins do have a lot of contracts in place moving forward. We have 22 NHL contracts for next season or beyond for a total of $80.1 million. So that only gives them a little bit of wiggle room here at $2.383 million in available salary cap space. So that's not really a whole lot to work with.
Still not a lot.
It's fair to say that the Bruins might need to find some ways to gain some salary cap flexibility here as the offseason gets into the full swing. So now let's take a look at their expiring contracts. What do they have in their system for restricted or unrestricted free agents for the 2022 offseason? Well, the restricted free agents, pretty easy. They don't have any. They have 0, none of the above. So the Boston Bruins are completely free in that regard. On the UFA side of things, though, they have Patrice Bergeron, who's by far the biggest question mark on this franchise, along with forwards Anton Bleed and Curtis Lazar, and defenseman Josh Brown, who was acquired at the NHL trade deadline. Anton Bleed himself has made comments that he was disappointed with his opportunity. I don't see a return happening there.
Yeah, whatever. That's
probably
fine.
From both sides of it. Josh Brown, I can't see him returning in the defense corps. And Lazar, there is reportedly some interest mutually for Curtis Lazar to possibly re-sign in Boston. So we'll see if maybe that can be worked out. But by far, Bergeron, the biggest name on this list and the biggest question mark facing this franchise. So speaking of Bergeron and questions, now let's jump into the final segment of the video. What are the top burning questions or top priorities facing the Boston Bruins this offseason? Now, one thing.
Google Fi, a phone plan by Google. Get Simply Unlimited, our most affordable unlimited plan starting at just
Before we get into the questions, we had heard from Cam Neely that GM Don Sweeney was expecting to be offered a contract extension here in the very near future. That was mentioned after the Bruins were eliminated from the playoffs and they conducted their end-of-season media availability. We haven't heard any announcements on that since then, but it is expected that he'd be taken care of. And there did seem to be some uncertainty around head coach Bruce Cassidy. Not saying that there's a higher chance or anything that he was going to be let go, but listening to Cam Neely speak, to me it did sound like, there was some unsureness in that regard. Like he said, Don Sweeney was going to be extended and that they were trying to put together the finishing touches on a contract extension.
The draft for the Bruins
when he talked about coaching,
very
he didn't say
important.
Cassidy had to go or anything like that. Didn't say anything too harsh. But he did say that he felt they needed to make some changes in how they coach. And when he was asked about Cassidy, like he would not give an assurance that he would be back. He said, made a few comments about some changes he'd like to see, and said ultimately that'll be up to Don Sweeney to determine. I would think if he was going to be let go, that's probably something we would have seen happen by now. At least you would think so, given how many free agent coaches are in the mix out there right now. If they were going to be making a change, I think they might be a little late getting to the party here to talk to a lot of really qualified candidates. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But sometimes teams also wait and see what other teams do and see who else is going to be coming onto the market. We know Barry Trotz is the hot commodity right now. As I record this, at least he has not signed with a new team, but has talked and interviewed with several. So, it's reported he's going to take his time, and he could be holding up the market too. Teams might be unwilling to make decisions until they know if they're going to be able to land Barry Trotz or not. So I do think that there's a small chance we see a change, but I just think that if it was going to happen, it wouldn't happen by now. But I did add that to my notes when talking about the Bruins here today, just because I found the comments from Cam Neely very, very interesting. So if there is a change, but Cassidy's back, maybe there's some different assistant coaches, maybe they make some other adjustments. I'm not sure, but it certainly sounds like there will be some sort of change when it comes to the guys running the coaching and behind the bench. Now, as I mentioned, though, the other next big question is the future of captain and top centerman Patrice Bergeron. Now, it feels like, there's a good chance that he's either going to retire or sign maybe a 1 or 2 year contract with the Boston Bruins. I don't see him signing long term. He's, obviously to his later 30s. He's had his fair share of injuries, the grind over the years. Lots to consider here from the longtime Bruin. One of the top respected players across the NHL. 1,000%. They'll probably rename the Selke Trophy for him one day, considering how many times he's won it or been a finalist. So it's one of those things that he's a big piece to this team. The problem is that many people feel they could benefit from better depth at the center position already, even with Bergeron in the lineup. If he leaves, that's going to create a major, major hole, and you would expect Don Sweeney and the Bruins to try to find another top centerman. I'm not sure that's not an easy task, obviously, but you would think that would be high on their list of priorities. Either you bring back Bergie, or you have to find a way to somehow. You're not going to replace him entirely, but who's going to be that new number one center? They lost David Krejci before, who of course reunited with David Pastrnak this year here recently at the World Championships. Had a great little tournament there. We don't have any reason to think Krejci's coming back, and even if he does, he's probably better suited for a number 2 center role. They need somebody who's, in my opinion, can skate a little bit better. Like Krejci's good, but he's not. Never been known as quick. So what do the Bruins do in that regard? Like, who could they possibly target? When you think about it, these kind of players that we're talking about are typical players you have to draft and develop. They're not commonly available via trade, and there's nobody that really, in my opinion, really jumps out as a free agent or somebody who's known to be available by trade that would make sense for the Bruins. So time will tell what they do, but the decision of Patrice Bergeron is going to have a major impact one way or another here. And of course, even if Bergeron does play, he's not going to have Brad Marchand with him for the first little while. We learned that Brad Marchand had a pretty significant hip surgery and needed labral repairs and had an arthroscopic surgery on both hips. So that's a pretty big deal. He's out for about 6 months. So he could probably miss the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season. If Bergeron is not there and Marchand is out for the first couple of months, depending on what they do for a top centerman, they could have a slow start to the year and they could be in trouble. We'll see what happens, but that's going to be huge for the Bruins for sure. So I'll be curious to see how Sweeney and Neely try to navigate through that. Will we see a few changes as well, including maybe a guy like Craig Smith? There's many that believe that Craig Smith could be a trade piece for the Bruins this offseason. After coming on 2 years ago via free agency, he's had his moments where he's been a good fit, but he's certainly been a little bit inconsistent as well, and certainly didn't produce much in these 21-22 playoffs. So there is some feeling that he's replaceable at this point.
Maybe.
And that with 1 year left on his contract at over $3 million, that he would be a typical player that they could probably shop for something like a future asset, whether it be a prospect or a pick or something of that nature, that it might be, somewhat easier kind of trade to find, given he's,
I don't know if I'm ready to give up on Craig Smith though yet.
Not making a ton of money, and at times has been in the past at least, has been a 20 goal scorer on a number of occasions. And a guy like Fabian Lysell, who's been really tearing it up in junior, could very well make the team next year and maybe even replace him at a much cheaper cost to give you similar or better production. So you have to think that's a real possibility. The Nick Foligno signing did not work out so far. No. Another horrendous year for Foligno. Yep. Like I said, ever since he's left Columbus, it's been straight downhill. I would not be shocked if they do a buyout unless they can find a trade for him, which again I think would be really tough to do. So I don't think Foligno's back one way or the other unless they feel like they can't, or it's just too costly, I guess. But to me, like he was not good last year, and they need to find a way to move on. And then, of course, another one that's, to me, is important is Jeremy Swayman is eligible for an extension. And he and Allmark obviously have a lot of fun together. They've created quite a friendship, quite a bond. They can be very fun to watch. And he's certainly proven that he can be a big part of this team moving forward. Correct. And I do think that it wouldn't be shocking to see him get extended. Of course, at this point, Allmark still has a number of years left, too. So maybe they get, 2-3 year extension with a bit of a bump in pay for Swayman. I don't know if they get ahead of that or they let it play out. I mean, obviously there's no danger because he would still be a restricted free agent. But I wonder if they try to get ahead of that before the price continues to go up to get him signed for at least a couple extra years within the RFA time of his contract here at a higher price, and give him a bit of a raise and go from there. At least they know they're solid in goal for a few years. Their D-core should be pretty good. I mean, they got McAvoy, Lindholm, Brandon Carlo. They might move a guy like Mike Riley. That wouldn't be shocking. Grzelcyk obviously could be back there. Between Grzelcyk and Carlo, Lindholm,
we're not going to have McAvoy, Grzelcyk, or Riley to begin the season.
5-6 spots can be filled out with some different personnel there. Except if Riley's not back, I don't expect Josh Brown to be back. Maybe they keep a guy like Derek Forbort, and there's another spot there too. So of course, obviously, we saw them trade Vaakanainen earlier before the deadline too. So he's not in the picture anymore. And there could be some minor movement there on the back end for Boston, but I don't think anything too significant. But Riley's also a guy, along with Craig Smith and Nick Foligno, that I would be quite surprised if they don't find a way to move on from those contracts. So let me know your thoughts on everything Boston Bruins in the comments. Is Bergeron back? Are they going to be in big trouble if he's not and Marchand's out injured for an extended time? We could maybe see the beginning of a decline in Boston. Is it time for that, or can they rebound and avoid that to stay in the playoff picture? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around.
Okay, that's going to do it for the video. Not good. Not good whatsoever. He didn't even... this video was probably recorded before the McAvoy, Grzelcyk, and Riley news broke, too. So... yeah, well, we already lost those three, unfortunately, so Riley's not going to be going anywhere, I would think. You mentioned Craig Smith. That was an interesting one that I thought that he brought up. I don't know if I'm ready to give up on Craig Smith yet. He's been playing. He played pretty well his first 2 seasons here. He just had a bad postseason this year. I mean... I don't really give him much blame for that, because for some weird reason, let's go back here. Let's not play it, but let's read it. The Bruins had stat-wise had a pretty good season. Stat-wise, they had a pretty good season. Am I underrating them? And they were just in a tough conference? Or do you guys agree with me that they didn't look as good as they normally do? Because by the naked eye, when I was watching Bruins games, right, whether it was at the Garden or on TV, they just didn't look like themselves. They didn't look as physical. They didn't look as fast skating. They looked slow. They looked like they were getting outplayed. They weren't protecting the puck as much as they normally do. They were turning it over a lot. For me, from the naked eye, for me at least, I did not see them having a good season. But the stats say right here, 4th in goals against, 9th in penalty kills. I mean, we knew their defense was pretty decent. But, I don't know. What do you guys think? Did they have a decent season, or did they underachieve? Let me know in the comment section down below. That's going to do it for the video. Not a good start to the offseason for the Bruins. A lot of questions, like he said. And that's pretty much all I have to say for the Bruins. Leave a thumbs up if you guys enjoyed. Subscribe now if you guys are new. You guys know what to do. If you guys want to check out my website, beantowntakes.com. Links in the description down below. If you guys want to donate to help me go to games, my Venmo is in the description down below. Anything helps. Appreciate all the love, support. It's been Jesse, and I'll see you guys in the next video.